Hello, hello. Welcome to this edition of the Cancer Coach Talks. I'm your host, Leslie Nance, and tonight we're going to be talking about medical versus alternative treatments when it comes to cancer. So, if you are brand new to me, maybe you're watching on YouTube, maybe you're watching here live tonight, maybe you're tuning in to a replay here on Facebook. Wherever you are connecting with us, welcome. It's so good to have you here. Let me introduce myself super fast. My name is Leslie Nance. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, a certified holistic cancer coach, and an 8-year cancer survivor. And, I try to come here as consistently as possible on Tuesday nights and just have a chat with you guys about what I know about creating a healing environment in the body that is very inhospitable to cancer and to disease. And tonight, I was super inspired to do this talk because today I was doing some calls. We call them breakthrough calls. My husband and I actually do these types of calls called breakthrough calls. And it's where we're talking to potential new clients about entering our program and seeing if they're a good fit and if we're a good fit for them, and just really having an honest conversation about the needs of the person that we're talking to. And, every single time I get on one of these calls, I am there to learn and to listen and to love whoever's on the other line. And today, 2 times today, I was on the phone with 2 different women that were so confused about how to proceed next and what was safe for them and what was going to be the right information for them in this healing process. And I couldn't help but come here tonight and share with you some of the advice that I shared with them. So if you're here with us live, please make sure that you leave a comment. I know that there are people here. I just don't know who is here until I actually see a comment from you on the Facebook Live. If you're watching this in replay, and it's quite possible that it looks very live to you, but it's actually a replay. And if that's the case, then welcome. And if you leave a question or a comment, we will certainly try to respond to those after the fact. So welcome everybody. It's good to have you here. Let's just I want to just jump right in to this conversation tonight. you know, the first thing that I want to say about this when it comes to medical versus alternative cancer treatment is that I think that there is a time and place for both of those. And I fear that the imbalance is not in just doing all medical or all alternative. Actually, I'm sorry. I feel, I should say, I feel like the imbalance is when somebody is choosing one extreme or the other and pinning, the medical community for not being able to help them, or putting too much reliance in the alternative community for not being able to help them. So I want to say that first, because I do believe that the balance of that is somewhere in the middle, using conventional medicine. And I know that's shocking for a lot of people, but using conventional medicine for what it's good at, and then choosing to be the boss of your cancer by paying attention to what is happening to your whole body while you are going through the healing process. And so I want to read you a list. Read you a list, and I want you to think about, when I read this list, am I talking about side effects from alternative treatments, or am I talking about side effects from conventional medical treatments? And as I read the list, you guys are welcome to type in which one do you think that I'm talking about. Okay? All right. So here we go. A dangerous amount of weight loss. That is one side effect that I am faced with commonly for people that are going through cancer and cancer treatments. A dangerous amount of weight loss. So, in other words, being underweight. Okay. Disruptions in the digestive system, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, low appetite, high appetite, just overall disruptions in the digestive system, toxic overload, having too many toxins in the body at one time. It actually creates an overload that gives us physical reactions. Can be some of those danger contribute to the dangerous weight loss or the disruptions in the digestion, even. What do you guys think I'm talking about? Holistic or, excuse me, alternative or medical? Insomnia, not being able to sleep, severe fatigue, not being able to do your normal functions or your normal daily activities, disease progression. The disease is getting worse, it's not getting better. And ultimately, death. Janice is saying medical. Thank you, Janice. Hi, Janice. Hi, Janice. I love you. I'm so happy to see you. Melissa's saying alternative. Interesting. Yeah. Here, I'll read them again. You guys type in what you think. Christina's saying medical. Hi, Christina. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Sherry. Dangerous weight loss, disrupted digestion, toxic overload, insomnia, fatigue, disease progression, and death. There's my girl. Christina's saying maybe both. And if you're thinking, is she trying to trick me? She's trying to trick me, isn't she? Only in the way that I speak about this is because these types of side effects we associate only with medical practices, right? But it also shows up in alternative treatments. I see these side effects present often. So here's the rule with me. To work with me, you have to be under the care of a physician. You must be cared for by an oncologist, an alternative oncologist. Someone has to be responsible for your physical body besides you. You can't just be doing it yourself out of a book, which we're going to talk about today, and expect to work with someone like me. I will not take that on. In fact, it's what happened in both of these calls today, and I'll explain why I'm saying that and why I could not help these women because of that. And that's not like oh, well, I can't help you. Shame on you if you're doing that. This is an education process. This isn't about judging or shaming. This is an education process. I'm going to try to shed some light on what I have seen and the knowledge that I have accumulated, helping thousands of people through their cancer journey. But I see these with both. These same side effects, the same side effects that present with medical. And I will tell you one point for the medical community, they actually do a better job at managing these side effects than the holistic or the alternative community is doing. They actually have things to keep you from having nausea or vomiting or diarrhea. They actually have things to help. Now, there are other pharmaceuticals typically, and there are things we can do naturally. And this is where that balance comes in. I'm going to have a hard time staying out of the middle with this because that's where my mind is always in the middle, is the balance of these two things. I have several clients here tonight, past clients and current clients. And they understand when I say staying in the middle, being in balance with these practices. I am not anti anything, anti chemo, anti alternative, anti this, anti medical, anti whatever. I'm not anti anything. The only thing that I would be anti is anti one size fits all. That I'm very anti. I'm very anti Band-Aid for cancer. So, what happens is, and this is what happened with both of these women today that I was speaking to, is that they started gathering a knowledge base and they got obsessive about it. They thought that knowledge, if I'm smart enough about this, that I can beat my cancer with knowledge. But what happened is they presented with overwhelm and confusion. They were both so stuck in overwhelm that it was hard to recognize that they were doing anything healthy for themselves. And once I pointed that out to them, they were like, "You're right." Knowledge is only power if you activate it, if you take action on it. And sometimes you don't know what to do. Both of these women totally stuck this way. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to turn next. They had lost all their confidence in the medical community, and they were beginning to lose confidence because of all the conflicting information in the alternative community. So, where does that leave you? Not very many options. There is no one size fits all for cancer, whether it's cancer treatments or diet or mindset or meditation or anything, surgery, chemo, nothing. There is no one size fits all. And you know how I know this? Because if there was a one size fits all diet, ta da! If you eat this, you won't have cancer anymore. That's what some people are promising you. Not me, by the way. If you eat this way, you'll never have cancer again. You know how I know that that does not exist? Because if it did, everybody, and I mean everybody, would be doing it. And the people that make the back end on the books and the diets and the videos and the wouldn't be making that money. Because if there was a one size fits all diet, I would be on every street corner and I'd be employing all of you to be on every street corner, shouting out what that thing is and let's save some lives. But there's not. And you're buying into that confusion. You're buying into someone else's bitterness against the medical community. And that is building a distrust. They're making you feel like they've somehow pulled the wool over your eyes. And the medical community is making you feel like that those alternative doctors are trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And whatever frame or belief system is stronger for you is where you go. And this creates confusion and frustration. And it keeps you stuck in a victim mentality because you don't know where to take action next. And that is a dangerous place to be in. Let me just say a couple of things here about medical versus alternative. One, you need to manage your expectations. You need to manage what you are expecting from both scenarios. And let me explain what I mean. Let's take alternative, for example. Well, actually, let's take the two of them. And I'm going to use an analogy. Here's my analogy for the evening. My analogy is this. If you have a yard full of weeds, and it is just packed. And a lot of us do right now, especially in Texas, because it's raining all the time, it feels like. So our yards are growing like crazy and we got weeds, baby. And so you have a yard full of weeds. You have a couple of choices to satisfy that getting rid of the weeds, right? You want to get rid of the weeds. You have several choices that you can go through. You can choose to poison the weeds. So you put out some weed and feed that feeds the grass and poisons the weeds. Some of you are like going, right now you're like, no, is she saying to poison our grass? She's saying that's okay? No, I'm not. I'm just using, this is an analogy. Okay. Hear me loud and clear. But if you have this yard full of weeds, you can put out some weed and feed and use the poison. And probably the next morning or the next day or two, you're going to see that those weeds are gone or they're just shriveled up. Right? That's pretty quick. That's pretty that's pretty cool that you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could totally do that. Or you could take a couple of weekends and sit on your bum in your yard with your gardening gloves and your weed getter, and you could pull the weeds out. That's very labor intensive. You have to make up your mind that you're going to do the work. You got to show up and do that work every single day, or the weeds are going to get out of control. If it takes you a month to pull all those weeds, you're going to have all new weeds again. Right? So it's just going to take some time. You have to stay on top of it. You have to pay attention if you're going to choose to pull the weeds yourself. Maybe you find somebody to help you pull the weeds. But that's the more natural approach, is to get them by pulling them up by the roots. Let's talk about the roots. If you have weeds that you have poisoned, you probably did not poison them all the way to the root. So the plant probably did not die. And it'll pop right back up again. If you pull weeds out and you don't get all the roots, what happens? The plant pops right back up again, especially weeds. Dumb old weeds. We had a freeze this year in Texas that killed like 15 plants in my yard, like big bushes, like big shrubberies, like just killed them dead. They're dead. But not the weeds. Like, why didn't it kill the weeds? It should have killed the weeds. But no, the weeds are just fine, but my big bushes aren't. Anyway, okay, that I regress. I'm sorry. But you have to manage your expectations of both of those processes, right? So, if you have cancer and you choose to go the medical route, they are going to use toxins, just like you would with the weeds. They're going to use toxins to get ahead of the weeds and get rid of them. Now, that's no easy road. Any of you that have been through chemo and radiation and surgery know that that is not an easy road. However, you could be cancer free in a few months potentially. If you choose to do it alternatively, you need to think about it in relationship to you're going to have to set your bum on the ground and pull the weeds. Probably find somebody to help you pull the weeds so that you can get ahead of the cancer. This takes time. It takes energy. It takes focus. It takes commitment. And it takes understanding how to get that weed out fully. If not, it's going to pop right back up again. But the medical community, going the medical route is people say, "Oh, you're so brave for," they say this to me all the time. "You're so brave for choosing not to do chemotherapy." No, I'm not. No, I'm not. What I did was hard. Chemotherapy would have been hard. It was hard. It was a hard choice. It took a long time for me to understand how to create an inhospitable environment to cancer and to disease. But we have choices, and you need to manage your expectations of that process. If you choose to heal more alternatively, that can be a 3 to 5 year road. Cancer treatments, medical, can be a year long. They can get the same kind of results, but you need to understand. I think people think if they follow a diet for a couple of months and their cancer isn't regressing, that somehow that they failed. That's not the case. You need to manage what your expectations are around that. Here's my other tip when we start talking about medical treatments versus alternative. The biggest discrepancy that I see is that people they start tuning into a frequency that says that the medical community is trying to screw you and that they're trying to kill you and that they want to keep you sick. And if they keep you sick, then you can make more money. I'm calling BS on all of that. That is not the truth. And whoever is feeding you that pack of lies, you need to call them out. There is not some magical cancer treatment. Don't you think that if they knew how to cure cancer, that they would do it? And talk about money. Wouldn't you pay any amount of money to get rid of your cancer? You'd find money somewhere if somebody had a silver bullet. You'd pay it. You'd do it. Everybody would. It's not about keeping you sick. It's about them utilizing the tools that they have. They're technicians. They're not there to monitor your overall health. They're there to fix your cancer. That's their job. I work with several oncologists throughout the country. They're amazing people. Not a single one of them, and they're not an exception to the rule. Not a single one of them wants their patients to be sick or, heaven forbid, die of cancer. They use the tools that they think that they should be using. Some of you might have seen Christine's comment on the broadcast tonight, and she was saying, you gave my husband Barry three extra months of life doing the alternative route, and she had wished that there was something that they would have made different choices. Maybe he would have lived longer and without the side effects that he had from treatments. Treatments were harsh for Barry. It was hard for him to make a decision to say no more. But they weren't trying to kill Barry. They were trying to help him. It's just that the tools that they had were not so effective. Don't buy into those lies. That puts you in a victim mentality. Boom, victim. The medical community is trying to kill me. Victim. You want to win this game? You want to win and really be the boss of this situation? You'll stop buying into those conspiracies right now, right here, today. And I say that to say that the biggest I got off on a rabbit trail. Rabbit trail, rabbit trail. The biggest discrepancy that I see between holistic and alternative and medical practices. I keep saying holistic because I'm a holistic practitioner, which means that we focus on the entire body, not just the cancer when we're talking about healing. Although my specialty is cancer, but the discrepancy between the medical and the alternative practices, the biggest problem that I see is that people get into this mentality that the medical community is trying to kill me. They're trying to keep me sick and I don't trust them. And so they conveniently read the book of the person that's telling you that. And that person says, oh, here's a whole bunch of supplements, and here's a diet. Oh, and here's another book, and here's a class, and here's some modules, and here's this, and here's that. And we buy into that. We look at that as the savior, and people are DIYing their cancer journey, and it's not turning out well. They come to me, they're sick, they're underweight, they're malnourished, they're not sleeping. Their cancer is progressing. And even sometimes they lose their lives. That's not a savior. That's creating a massive gap, a massive hole in the process of healing. Don't do it yourself. If you take anything away from this, don't read a book and say, I'm going to ditch my medical treatments and I'm going to start doing this. This book, it's written on a piece of paper. It's in a book. They got a book published, so they must be right. Then why isn't everybody doing it? You should ask yourself that question. Maybe medical's not right for you and you want to do something more alternative. You want to go in a more alternative practice. Fine. That's great. I did that. I actually married medical with alternative to create this 8-year journey of being cancer free. I am not supposed to be here, people. And I'm here. I understand not wanting to do chemo. I Out of everybody on the planet, I understand it because I said no to it. I get it. But don't think then I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to read a book, I'm going to do it myself. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. I've talked to hundreds of people that it's not fine. I've watched people lose their lives in both ways, medical and alternative. If you're going to go alternative, and this was my advice to these women today, and I told them, I can help you, but you have to find a path of treatment. They both had aggressive, one of them two cancers within 6 months, the other one stage 4 cancer. You must hire a professional if you're going to do alternative treatments. Do not do it yourself. I'll use another example. Let's say that your kid said, "Hey, mom, I want to learn karate. Teach me karate." You don't know karate. I don't know karate. I can't teach you karate. Well, just watch these 10 modules online. Watch these 10 modules online. It will teach you how to teach me karate. You're not a karate instructor. What are you doing? That's not being the boss of your cancer. That's not being the boss of the situation. That is taking major risk with your life. Hire a professional. There are tons of alternative cancer clinics popping up all over the country. Find one. Your insurance isn't going to pay for it. That's your choice. You've chosen to go out of the insurance and go into the alternative. You're going to have to get resourceful financially. Sometimes they can help you with that. I understand it. I probably have, oh gosh, if I had to guess, I probably have six figures in my healing. Six figures I didn't have, by the way. I had to figure out how to get them. But you're gonna have to find somebody to help you. And if you're saying, "Well, that's not fair. Why do I have to pay for alternative, but I don't have to pay for medical?" And la 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 la, because that's the system. And you can stay in that victim mentality if you want, or you can choose something different. It's not just reserved for the rich. It's not just reserved. Get out of that victim mentality. Make a decision. I'm going to do this. I need to get resourceful and I need to figure out how to do it. You're going to be in the tens of thousands of dollars for that healing. And I'm not saying that to deter you. I'm just telling you the reality of that. So what? It's money, it's replaceable. You can get more. You can't get more of this. I mean, I'm not talking about you can't get more of this. I'm talking about you can't get more of you. You're it. You're the only one you got. You're worth it. Do it. If that's what you want to do, if that's what your heart is resonating with, don't do it yourself. Find a professional to help you. In some cases, it's a professional, an alternative professional, and your medical team that can help you. I always tell every single client that I tell them, if you're doing it alternative, do not cut your oncologist and your medical team loose. You're going to need them. You're going to need them for scans. Sometimes you need them for blood work. You're going to need them. Please keep them. You're going to need them in a case of an emergency. You might need them. Do not cut those people loose, but don't do it yourself. You wouldn't just take a class online and try to teach your kid karate or painting or whatever because you're not the expert. But there are people who are experts. Go find them. Make them a part of your journey if that's what you choose. If you're doing things medically, don't get stuck in, and if you're here, you're probably not doing this, but don't get stuck in the medical's the only thing. That's the only thing I can do. That's where somebody like me comes in. That's where I can teach you how to stay healthy during your cancer treatments, how to recover faster, how to have less side effects long term, how to get your life back, how to heal your life from the trauma of being diagnosed with cancer. That's where somebody like me comes into play. If you're doing an alternative, I can also help you with those same things. Help you align your nutrition, help you understand your can help you make a good decision. I can't make the decision for you, but I can tell you what I know about it. And if it's a good decision for you, you are looking for answers, and I get it. But you're not going to find them by confusing yourself with loads and loads and loads of information piling up in your brain. All that's doing is creating a crowd. It's creating something that is not sustainable. It's creating something that is feeling like you're in overwhelm. And then when you get into overwhelm, desperation kicks in. And then you start feeling desperate. I have a client that right now, she's amazing. She managed her stage 4 breast cancer alternatively for 8 years and did a really good job of it. And then the options started checking out. And she had to turn to her medical doctor and say, I'm going to need some more help here. She had to talk with her oncologist. And so now she's on a treatment path and doing very, very well in her journey. You have to be smart. You have to be decisive. You cannot. Had she stayed in the victim mentality and said, oh, I can't do anything other than alternative because the medical people are trying to kill me, she might not be here. She might not be here. You must, at some point, create an action plan to solve your problems. You are not a cancer professional. Stop acting like one. This is your life we're talking about. We're not talking about remodeling your bathroom or teaching your kid karate or even weeds in your yard. We're talking about your life, and you are taking it in your own hands. These two women I talked to today were taking their life in their own hands, doing what they were doing. And neither one of them were confident that what they were doing was even the right thing. It was like shooting an arrow. And I use this analogy with them. It was like shooting an arrow off and not having a target or even know where it's going. I don't even know where that arrow just went, much less looking at a target. And that is not a comfortable feeling when you're trying to heal your life from cancer. You want to shoot off an arrow and it's going towards a target. And that's what professionals can help you with, alternatively or medically, or somewhere in the middle of that. Maybe you're using both. I have clients who use both all the time. Everybody catch what I'm throwing down tonight? Everybody understand? Don't try to solve the most complicated human disease on the planet on your own. This isn't like diabetes. You can change your lifestyle and quite frankly overcome diabetes. You can help with your thyroid, correct it naturally. You can lose weight naturally. You can gain weight naturally. But cancer is a very complicated, very threatening disease. And sometimes you don't have time to wait to sit down and pull all the weeds in the garden. And you need some help doing that. And the medical community is great at that. And sometimes when you get that solved and you want to maintain the weeds at that point, then you can look at the alternative and work from that perspective. I'm going to tell you one more story and then I'm going to answer some questions. So you guys can type in your questions right now if you want, and I'll get to those questions. So, this has been several years back now, and actually, I've spoken with her daughter since, and she's actually passed. But I had a woman that had contacted me, and she had a breast cancer that she had been treating alternatively for probably 3 to 4 years. It had not metastasized. She'd actually kept the breast cancer from metastasizing somewhere else in her body. However, the tumor had ulcerated through her breast, and so it was actually ulcerated through the skin and was coming through her breast, and it was a big nasty wound. And she had one person, a woo woo doctor that had no idea what was going on with the cancer, tell her that the tumor was trying to exit the body and that she needed to do XYZ, and then the tumor would just pop out like a zit, essentially. And I was like, that's not how cancer works. And so we had to undo a lot of that mind trash that had been created by these pseudo people that she had been speaking with about this particular situation. And so she went on like this for quite a while, and then she got really, really sick. And she contacted me again. She ended up not working with me. I actually, because she wasn't under the care of a physician, either an alternative or a medical, I couldn't really help her, which is part of the rule that I have when I'm working with people, is that you need to be under the care of a physician, again, either alternative or medical. And she contacted me again, and she was in the hospital actually, and she was like, yeah, they're trying to figure out what is wrong with me. And you're just such a positive person, and you told me to reach out if I needed anything, and I just needed to like hear you. And I was like, all right. So we had a conversation, and we had actually kept up in some emails and some Facebook stuff and stuff, anyway. And so we talked, and then a couple of days later she called me again, or she texted me again. And she said, I have two major problems. And I said, what's going on? And she said, well, first of all, I have a massive inflammatory tumor that has developed behind the primary. So she didn't even know it was there, because she'd not had scans in years, and she didn't even know it was there. So she had an inflammatory breast cancer show up behind the primary tumor. And she said, and that's, it's wreaking havoc. And she said, but that's not the really bad news. The really bad news is that I'm stage 4 and my liver is shutting down. And she said, I had no idea that this was happening. And I don't tell you this to scare you. I tell you because I think that she would want people to understand her story and understand where she thought she could do better. And she started crying, and we talked for a little bit longer, and she said to me something that was so pointed and so real that it really caught me off guard. And she said to me, she said, Leslie, had I not been so bullheaded and I had not bought into so many lies about cancer and what I was capable of, I probably could have had that tumor removed and worked from prevention years ago. And I chose not to do that. And I feel like it was a mistake. And I told her there were no mistakes, and she had maintained her life for quite some time with a pretty aggressive cancer, and had really kept it from moving from other parts into other parts of the body until this inflammatory cancer showed up. And it's possible it would have showed up anyway, regardless of, who knows? We don't have a crystal ball. But I don't want you to be in a position where you're so bullheaded about only medical, only medical, only medical, only medical. Because I could tell you 10 stories about that as well. Somebody Christine, who shared prior to this video, wishing that her husband had chosen an alternative route instead of the chemotherapy when the chemotherapy started to degrade him so seriously. I could tell you 10 stories on both sides of that. But here's the truth of all of that, is that we buy in to a particular way of thinking, and we get so rooted and so stuck in that mentality that we're not flexible to blow and to grow and to be and to think differently about what possible healing could come our way. All of us have known somebody, right? All of us have known somebody that was diagnosed with cancer, told that they had a few weeks to live, and died within a few weeks. We all know somebody like that. I know several people, like, of course, I'm in the industry, so I know several people that that's happened to. And what happens is we disconnect from the possibility and from the hope and from the promise, and we start accepting that this is our destiny. Or we start accepting that somebody's trying to screw us or trying to keep us sick. Or that those people that do alternatives are wackadoos. What are they thinking? And the truth is, the thing that creates healing in you is the thing you believe in. And if you have a crowded brain with all of this information in it, and you're not using any of it to take action, you're missing the boat. You are blocking your own healing pathways. Stop. Quit. There's no silver bullet. Not for the woman that I described, not for the women that I talked to today, not for me, not for any of you here. You have to be the boss of the situation and find out what your healing pathways are. Now, if that's super clouded for you, I can help you, but you got to be under the care of an alternative physician or a medical physician. You can't just be doing it yourself. I will tell you, no way, Jose. No way. There is no way that I'll be able to help you. But if instead you're looking to get out of that victim mentality, you're looking to put this information that you gathered and put those in motion and use them, then I'm your girl. I can help you do that in spades. I can teach you in a few short months how to activate healing in your life, how to show up like the boss on the really good days and on the really shitty days. So, from a holistic perspective, what does all this mean? I truly believe that healing exists somewhere in the middle. I truly believe that we are in control of the information that we put into our body. Do I believe that there's one diet that cures cancer? Nope. Do I believe there's one superfood that's going to do it all? It's the most common question I get. Nope. Nope. I believe that there are ways that we can empower all of our healthy cells nutritionally to do what they do naturally, which is fight cancer cells. I believe that we can empower our minds with the information that turns on healing and leaves it on. I believe that we can activate that spirit man that's inside of every single one of us. Call it what you want, but that we can activate that and keep us calm in our darkest days. Keep us balanced when, in other words, we should be completely out of balance. That is what healing your life is. It's not focused on trying to get rid of cancer, get rid of cancer, get rid of cancer. If you create an environment where cancer doesn't want to live, sorry, I hit my microphone. Guess what? It doesn't want to live there. There's no silver bullets on either aisle. You must choose the path that is righteously yours. That is the only path.